Picture this. It's a humid summer night in Birmingham, Alabama. The city skyline glimmers, but beneath the neon and the street lights, something sinister is brewing. Over the next 14 months, Birmingham would become the backdrop for one of the most chilling crime raves in recent American history. A rampage that would leave families shattered, police scrambling, and a community demanding answers. This is the story of Damien McDaniel, a name that for many now sends chill down their spine. Damien Laron McDaniel, just 22 years old, born and raised in Birmingham. On paper, he's just another young man from a tough neighborhood, a product of the city's rough edges. But by 2025, his mugshot will be splashed across every news channel in Alabama, his name whispered in fear and outrage. As I speak, Damian sits behind bars at Kilby Correctional Facility, awaiting trial. The charges? A staggering 14 homicides in just 14 months across at least 8 separate cases. The district attorney calls it unprecedented. The state wants the death penalty, and the city of Birmingham is left asking, how did we get here?
You can never whip these boys if you don't keep you and them separate. I found that out in Birmingham. You've got to keep the white and the black separate.
Birmingham, founded in 1871, quickly became a hub for Black enterprise, including the 1890 opening of Alabama's first Black-owned bank. Despite flourishing Black neighborhoods and businesses, harsh segregation persisted into the 20th century. In the 1950s and 60s, Birmingham was the center of the civil rights movement, earning the nickname Birmingham due to the frequent attacks on Black homes and churches. The 1963 Birmingham campaign, led by Martin Luther King, helped bring national attention to the struggle for equality. Today, Birmingham's violent crime rate is over 150% higher than the national average. In 2024, the city recorded a record 152 homicides, the highest ever. As of today, homicides dropped by 40% compared to the previous year, but the murder rate remains 7 times higher than the national average.
The state has filed to seek the death penalty. McDaniel's attorney maintains his innocence. Tonight, ABC 3340's I-Team's Valerie Bell takes you inside the investigation, the staggering allegations, and the push for justice.
Anitra was the person that held our family together. It has been a big difference by her being gone. She was an amazing girl. She was like my everything.
On September 21st, Candace Kemp's 21-year-old daughter left home for an alumni picnic with friends. When news of the mass shooting in 5 Points South spread on social media, Kemp grew worried.
I started calling her phone, and it was just ringing.
She raced to the hospital, then back to the scene, searching for answers.
That's when the officer had pulled me to the side and told me that my daughter was one of the victims. And I just feel like a part of me left that night.
Nearly a month later, the Birmingham Police Department announced an arrest in that case, 22-year-old Damien McDaniel.
The amount of violent acts that he's associated with is unprecedented.
The Jefferson County District Attorney's Office is prosecuting 8 separate cases against McDaniel, totaling 14 homicides in the span of 14 months. On July 12, 2023, 2 on-duty Birmingham firefighters were shot while working at Station 9. Jordan Melton died a few days later. Jamal Jones, who was critically injured, survived. Damien McDaniel and Eddie Jones were both charged in that case. Court documents allege Melton was intentionally targeted because he had been subpoenaed to testify in a murder trial against Larry Rollins, who also happens to be charged in a separate homicide connected to McDaniel. On January 10, 2024, 21-year-old Mia Nixon was shot in the driveway of her family's East Birmingham home. McDaniel is the sole person charged in this case. McDaniel is also charged alongside Charles Durius Nance in the death of UPS worker Anthony Love Jr. in an alleged murder-for-hire plot. Lorandis Anderson, Stevie McGee, Markeisha Gettings, and Angela Weatherspoon were all killed. 10 others were injured. McDaniel and Hatarius Woods were both charged. A month later, on August 13th, 61-year-old Charlie Herbert Moore was killed inside his apartment. McDaniel, Woods, and Nance all charged in connection to that case. On September 19th, McDaniel is accused of killing 35-year-old DeAntronette Tanae Brown, an innocent bystander who was inside 604 bar. 2 days later, on September 21st, a mass shooting in Birmingham's 5 Points South. Carlos McCain, Roderick Lynn Patterson Jr., Anitra Holloman, and Taj Booker were all killed outside Hush Lounge. 17 others were injured. Again, McDaniel was charged, along with Naquan Lawler and Krishawn McLemore Bruce. Less than 24 hours later, police were investigating the robbery shooting death of Jamarcus Deshaun McIntyre in the 700 block of 81st Street South. McDaniel, Lawler, McLemore Bruce, in addition to Larry Rollins, DeMarco Beck Jr., and Zachary Holmes, all charged. The common thread through every case, McDaniel's alleged involvement.
The thing that kind of separates this out is that it wasn't simply in one location. You've got multiple events on multiple dates. And again, that goes to a level of violence and I think kind of a disregard for safety that in my experience, I don't recall ever encountering.
According to authorities, some of these killings could be murder for hire, raising questions about McDaniel's connections.
If what they're saying is true, that this is something that has been sanctioned by someone else, you have to then begin to think, well, what were his underworld connections relative to the streets in Birmingham? You know, who knows this guy? Because that goes to a bigger picture. You know, who's out there that would put money forward to say, I want you to go out and it doesn't matter how many people are harmed, I want you to decimate these people.
The scale is mind-boggling. 14 homicides, dozens wounded. The DA calls it unprecedented. Forensic experts say the violence is both organized and chaotic. Some victims targeted, others just caught in the crossfire. Was this the work of a cold, calculating killer? Or was Damian just a pawn in a much bigger game? Police and federal agents, ATF, FBI, DEA, pour over scenes, collecting shell casings, tracking ballistics, chasing rumors of murder-for-hire plots and underworld connections. The evidence is complex, the case sprawling. Investigators say if they can tie the same weapon to multiple scenes and put Damian's hands on it, that's the thread that will unravel the mystery. But here's the twist. Damian's attorney insists he's innocent. Not one shred of evidence has been presented in court to support these charges. Damian himself remains calm, polite, articulate. He pleads not guilty to every charge. Whispers swirl through Birmingham Street. Was Damian a lone wolf or part of something bigger? Some killings have the hallmarks of contract hits. Was he working for someone else? A shadowy figure pulling the strings? Or was he simply a young man who lost his way, swept up in a tide of violence? A documentary surfaces on YouTube, filmed by an international filmmaker. Damian appears on camera, his face hard, his eyes cold. When asked about compassion for victims and families, he says, "Why show them compassion when they ain't gonna show you no compassion? They ain't gonna spare me in the courtroom. They gonna want a nigga slaughtered." The city watches horrified.
Anop was murdered, and obviously their families would be grieving. Yeah, would you have any empathy towards their mothers?
Now I'm gonna put the trophy up. I'm gonna put the trophy on the shelf.
That's the question. Answer, yeah, let her answer though. Let her answer. Let her answer though. Let her answer though. I ain't got nothing against nobody, mama or none of that. So if they grieve, let them grieve. That ain't got nothing to do with them.
do the same thing to you, so why not do it to them? Why show them compassion when they ain't gonna show your folk no compassion?
Basically, saying he ain't sparing shit.
For what? They ain't gonna spare me.
Put it like
yeah,
that.
wait. When if their son end up dead and they come to court, they ain't gonna spare me in the courtroom.
Hey, I know
they
it,
gonna want my
ain't
ass though.
For the families, the pain is raw. Candace Kemp lost her daughter, Anitra, in 5-point shooting. She was my everything, Kemp says. It's just the senselessness of not caring about others around that makes it not fair and still has me angry. Across Birmingham, vigils are held, tears are shared, and people ask, how did we let this happen? Damien McDaniel sits in prison, his fate uncertain. The state will seek the death penalty. His defense team prepares for the legal fight of a lifetime. The evidence is still being pieced together. No trial date has been set. The community waits, desperate for justice, desperate for closure. The story of Damien McDaniel is a tragedy, one that has left families grieving and a city searching for answers. But Birmingham's pain is not the end of the story. Across history, communities have faced darkness, only to rise again by finding new strength and unity. For the African American community, the path forward can be illuminated by timeless wisdom of the Torah, a guidebook for healing, justice, and hope. The Torah teaches that no matter how deep the wounds, renewal is also possible. The concept of Shuva, repentance and return, is central to the recovery and transformation. Shuva is not just about feeling regret. It's about honest reflection, taking responsibility, and actively returning to one's best self. The Torah promises that anyone, no matter their past, can choose a new path. If someone wicked repents of all their sins that were committed and keeps all my laws and does what is just and right, they shall live. They shall not die. This message is universal. It tells us that the cycle of violence and despair can be broken, not just by individuals, but by the entire community of Birmingham, willing to embrace healing, accountability, and hope found in the Torah. We heal best when we come together as a community. From Birmingham, this means building networks of support, neighbors checking on neighbors, faith leaders offering guidance, and families refusing to let shame or fear keep them isolated. The Torah commands, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. In times of crisis, silence is not an option. Action, empathy, and solidarity are required. As Birmingham writes its next chapter, let the wisdom of the Torah inspire every step. The journey from tragedy to healing is possible when we walk it together, guided by hope, justice, and the enduring promise that renewal is always within reach. For it is the eternal God who marches with you to do battle for you against your enemy, to bring you victory. Let us choose life, choose hope, and choose each other. The story is not over. The future can be bright for future generations by following the instructions found in the Torah.